You know, co-parenting agreements are supposed to create stability for kids after a separation. But what happens when that agreement just completely shatters and all that cooperation turns into all-out conflict? Today, we're going to dive into a real-life legal battle between two Air Force veterans to see exactly what it takes for a court to rip up a custody order and start from scratch.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. Look at this timeline. In April 2018, everything's going smoothly. You've got a joint custody plan that works. Fast forward just a little over a year to July 2019, and the whole thing completely implodes. By the end of 2020, a judge has to step in and flip the entire script. So how on earth did it all fall apart so fast?
So this all centers on a case called Prevost v. Silman. We've got a mother in Missouri and a father down in Arkansas, both of them veterans. They start out with a pretty standard joint custody plan, where they exchange their child every 6 weeks. And hey, for over a year, it actually seemed to be working just fine.
But then you get to the breaking point. It's July 2019, and after a vacation, the mother just refuses to send the child back to the father. She starts cutting back his parenting time, and just like that, the co-parenting relationship is toast. So what happens next? Both parents march off to court, and they both ask for the exact same thing: sole legal and physical custody.
Now, you can't just stroll into court and ask to change a custody order whenever you feel like it. The law has this really important first hurdle you've got to clear. You have to prove there's been a substantial change in circumstances since the last order was made. And a complete and total breakdown of the co-parenting relationship, well, that's pretty much a textbook example.
So to really get what was at stake here, you have to understand what they started with. They had joint legal custody. And that's not just about splitting up time with the child. It's about sharing the big, important decisions, things like school, healthcare, even discipline. It's all about communication and, maybe most importantly, cooperation. And this right here, this is the core of the whole fight. On one side, you've got this collaborative model, joint custody. On the other, you have sole custody, where one parent basically gets to be the CEO of the child's life. They can call all the shots without even needing the other parent's approval. That's what they were fighting for.
Okay, so once the court says, yep, things have definitely changed, its focus shifts completely to one single overriding principle. What is in the best interests of the child? And let's be clear, this isn't about what mom or dad wants, it's all about what the child actually needs to thrive.
Now, because this case involves some really serious allegations of abuse coming from the mother, the court did something important. It appointed a guardian ad litem, or a GAL. You can kind of think of the GAL as the child's personal advocate, part lawyer, part detective. Their entire job is to dig into the facts, talk to everyone involved, and then tell the judge what they think is truly best for that kid. And what the court and the GAL found was a really big deal. They discovered that the child was having these severe behavioral problems at school, but only when he was living with his mother. When he was with his father, those problems just vanished. I mean, that's a huge red flag, right? It strongly suggested one home environment was way more stable than the other.
And it wasn't just a one-off thing. The court started to see this pattern of interference. During virtual calls between the father and son, the mother would record them, even after the child asked her to stop. She would say things to the child like his father doesn't want to see you ride your bike. It got so bad that the child had to literally step in and say, "No, I want to talk to my daddy."
So you can see how all these little pieces start to form a much bigger picture, a clear pattern of conduct that really ended up swaying the judge's decision. The court wasn't just looking at one or two blow-ups. It was looking at the entire pattern of behavior from both parents.
And when the court put everything side by side, wow, the difference was just night and day. It was basically a scorecard of co-parenting, and it wasn't even close. The mother refused parenting time, the father never did. She made serious abuse allegations that the court found weren't credible. He didn't make any back at her. Get this, she even refused to give her own child Christmas presents just because they came from the father.
Those abuse allegations? They ended up being incredibly damaging. But for the mother's case, she claimed the father hit the child with a golf club and left a mark. But then, during the trial, a photo comes out showing that the mark was a birthmark the child had had since he was an infant. The court decided that claim, and others, just had no credibility.
And look, this kind of behavior, it's not some isolated incident you only see in this one case. As you can see from this quote from a different ruling, courts really don't like it when one parent seems to be on a mission to undermine the other one. This kind of conduct is often called parental alienation,
and judges see it as incredibly harmful to a child.
So you have all this evidence piling up, the child's own behavior, the parents' actions, the question of who seemed credible, and it all lands on the desk of the judge, who, in these cases, has an incredible amount of power to make a final, decisive call.
And believe me, that judge's decision carries a ton of weight. There's this legal principle that basically says appeals courts almost never overturn a trial judge's custody ruling. And why is that? It's pretty simple, actually. The trial judge was there, in the room. They saw the parents testify, they looked them in the eye, and they're seen as being in the absolute best position to figure out who's being truthful and who isn't.
So what was the final call? A total 180. The court awarded the father sole legal custody, stripping the mother of all her shared decision-making power. And the judge was crystal clear about why. Her conduct was the main reason the co-parenting relationship failed, and that was just not in the child's best interest.
Oh, and it didn't stop there. There were financial consequences, too. The court ordered the mother to pay 50% of the guardian ad litem's fees, and the reasoning was direct. Her unproven abuse allegations were the whole reason a GAL was needed in the first place, so the court made her pay for it.
A case like this really leaves you thinking about a pretty tough question. When a court makes a huge change like this, it's obviously trying to protect the child's well-being. But there's no denying it's also a major consequence for one of the parents. So it really makes you wonder, in the complicated world of family law, where exactly is the line between protecting a child and punishing a parent?